tonight. It's nice to have this crowd show up. There's been a lot of things going on in our state, and there's been a lot of excitement. And I want you to know it's your participation in the political system that makes a huge difference. You were able to turn the tide on House Bill 51, which stopped a bad abortion bill from being passed in the state. You also stopped some of the terrible gun bills that they tried to pass. But you know what? These politicians were determined to push them through, and Bloomberg spent over $400,000 for our politicians in Santa Fe so that they would push these bills through. So we're going up against a lot of things, but I know that if we all work together, we're going to be okay. I want you to know you're always welcome in our meetings, all of you, and glad to have you here. We will be meeting the fourth Tuesday of every month, 6 o'clock, and we will have a speaker every month. I'd like to begin, please. I've asked Steve Williams to give our opening prayer, and then I would ask, let's see, who would like to lead us in the pledge? The gentleman in the back, his arm went up first.
You want me to use that or just?
Yeah, go ahead.
Our Father in heaven, we are so grateful for this opportunity to meet here and be a participant in our government. The government thou hast brought into existence. We ask for thy help and thy spirit to be with us, that we might help to save our Constitution. Father, we're grateful for the fellowship and the honor of living here in Cibola County. We ask thee to watch over us, guide us and lead us. This we ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a very nice evening tonight. We actually have two of my favorite people here. Sheriff Tony Mace. We were talking about these gun laws that were trying to be shoved through our state legislature. He was in Santa Fe, I would say almost every day of that 60-day legislative session, hounding and pounding and trying to reason with our elected officials. But when our elected officials are not listening to us, that's when we have to rise up and we have to do what we have to do. We have to speak out. We need to let them know. I want Sheriff Mace to know how much I appreciate his courage and his tenacity. He is the president of the Sheriff's Association for the state of New Mexico. He's also vice chair of the Southwestern Sheriff's Association, Western States Sheriff's Association. And we appreciate his leadership, not only in our community, but throughout the state. He has really led the sheriffs that we have throughout the state. I believe we had 29 out of 30. 29 out of 30 sign on. Out of 33, I'm sorry, out of 33 sheriffs. And I've met a lot of these sheriffs. They're dedicated, great men. They are patriots, and they love this country. And I'm grateful to have you here, Sheriff Mace. We also have Yvette Harrell. She was the second congressional candidate in this last election. And the election was lost by 2,500 votes, I believe. I've gotten to know Yvette over the last couple of years. She's been here many times, if you haven't known that. But I was doing a cleanup in San Fidel, And it's not attractive work. I was out there picking up garbage. All of a sudden, this big, beautiful truck pulls up. It's really tall. And the window rolls down, and I recognized Yvette. And I said, "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be running for Congress." And she said, "I saw on Facebook that you had this cleanup, and I wanted to help. Where do I start?" And that is the kind of woman that she is. She's a worker. She's honorable. She's an honorable, honest, good woman. And she believes in God. She believes in this country, believes in the Constitution. She believes in the rights that God has given us. And I'm grateful for Yvette Harrell to have the opportunity to know her and to have her here. Unfortunately, we have to scoot through this business real quick so that we can say that we did it. Julie, would you go through and read the minutes from our last meeting, please?
Good evening. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Awesome. Minutes of the February 26, 2019 meeting of the Cibola County Republican Party. Chairman Robert Scott Windhorst called the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Membership was led in prayer by Ray Clemens, followed by all saying the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Steve Williams. Secretary Julie Janot read the minutes of the January 22, 2019 meeting and biennial convention. The members approved the minutes as read. Chairman then introduced the executive committee and delegates who were elected at the biennial convention. The treasurer, Ms. Janot, submitted the treasurer's report. The committee's bank balance at the beginning of 2018 was $536.21. Receipts for the year totaled $42, with expenditures of $324.82, leaving a year-end balance of $253.39. Ms. Janot asked the membership to be generous with their donations, hoping for at least $42 or more to meet or exceed all the donations received in 2018. The treasurer's report was approved by the members as submitted. Mr. Windhorst provided updates from the legislature indicating there are still a few weeks left before the session is over. Our guest speaker, Cibola County Manager Kate Fletcher, was then introduced by Chairman Windhorst. After thanking the members for the invitation, Ms. Fletcher told us a bit about herself, then brought in the staff she works with who were present at the meeting with her. Paul Ludy, Finance Director, Wendy Self, Chief Procurement Officer, and Dustin Middleton, Emergency Manager and County Fire Marshal. Each spoke about their positions and what it is they do. Ms. Fletcher also spoke of Judy Harasik, Intergovernmental Relations and Project Coordinator, as well as Debbie Gomez, Human Resources and Accounts Payable, both of whom were unable to attend. Ms. Fletcher referred to all these individuals as the A-Team. After the presentation, there were questions from the audience regarding the Sheriff's Department coverage and response times and other matters. Thank you, Ms. Fletcher and her team. Chairman Windhorst then opened the floor for comments. We heard from Tom Jackson and Sammy Garcia with comments from Ms. Janot about donating money. Looking for an email from her before the next meeting, and please invite your friends and neighbors to the next meeting. Announcements: Thursday, February 28th, the County Commission will meet at 5 p.m., at which the Second Amendment Sanctuary County Resolution will be proposed. Monday, March 4th, the Grant City Council will meet at 6 p.m., at which the Second Amendment Sanctuary City Resolution will be proposed. Mr. Windhorst reminded everyone our meeting night is the fourth Tuesday of each month. Next meeting will be March 26th at 6:00 p.m. By unanimous consent, the meeting was adjourned at 7:32 p.m. Respectfully submitted, Julie Janot, Secretary.
Julie, would you please also do the treasurer's report? And then we'll just, oh, you already did that?
Would you like to approve them together?
Yes, we can approve them together.
All right. I would like to, before I go to treasurer's report, we have information from the executive board meeting. We met on Wednesday, March 20. Board discussed the possibility of creating different committees such as voter registration, fundraising, and prospective candidates. These committees will be ad hoc and created when the board determines. The board decided on a permanent agenda item entitled Constitutional Moment, which will be introduced each month by Ronnie Pines or his designee. The board also talked about the upcoming City of Grants July 4th parade and wanting to have a float in that parade. This matter will be brought to the membership under new business at April 23rd meeting. Okay, Republican Party of Cibola County Treasurer's Report as of March 26th. Previous balance was $253.39. How much did I want? I asked for $42, right?
Don't keep us in suspense.
$226.19 meeting donations, $127.02 for a current balance of $380.41. Respectfully submitted, Julie Janot, Treasurer, and thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to,
I move that both reports be accepted as read.
do I have a second? Thank you. Nobody said the rest.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye. Thank you. Our rogue sheriff, I forgot to mention, he is a rogue. And one of the reasons why we are not a sanctuary state, I'd like to give, sorry to be standing behind you, I know I should oversight. I'd like to give Yvette just a moment to introduce herself. She came from El Magordo tonight to be here with us because she wanted to hear Tony. I have a really nice picture of Tony and Yvette. And from the, I think it was our Friends of NRA meeting, that's right. And I cherish that picture, it's a great picture. Yvette, would you like to take a moment and say something?
Sure. Okay. Does this work? Okay, this is cool. I will only take a minute. First, thank you for the introduction. And when I heard Tony was speaking, I thought, I got to get up there. I mean, to watch what Tony and Mark Cage and David Black and all the sheriffs did through that 60-day session. I mean, this is where the true patriots are. These guys who are standing up for all of us. And of course, I don't know if you mentioned, I am running again, and I'll come back on another meeting to tell you more details about the findings we found in our ballot investigation. I don't know if all of you have seen that report. It's very extensive, and we can use it as a tool to train candidates, voters, poll workers, everybody. So that's another meeting, because right now I just am blessed to be in your company, because these are the patriots that are making it happen on the state level, and these are the rogue sheriffs that I just want his autograph. I was in Artesia with Mark Cage a few weeks ago. Somebody goes, "Oh, it's like Steven Tyler being here." Well, Steven Tyler, that's a really old rock and roll band, but it was still cool. But these guys are what it's all about, and thank you for being here. And I just am just happy to be here, and we'll do another track thing. But I will see you guys again in another meeting. We'll talk ballots. But tonight it's your night.
Somebody pointed out that I forgot about the constitutional moment. Did you have a moment?
Yes, well, I was going to just say we're not there, but.
I also am very proud of the fact that I live in Cibola County, and very proud of the fact that I have a sheriff in Tony Mace who is true blue. He's red, white, blue, and I don't care who knows it, and he doesn't either. He sticks with what he says, and he says what he does, and he is the real deal. And I'm very pleased and impressed to have him here. If you did not gather, anybody who would like a copy, if I missed you, I'm sorry. This is basically the hot topic for our meeting tonight is about our sacred Constitution and the concerns.
We should all. Yeah, I didn't know I put the lights on that. Yeah. Well,
The county paid the bill.
anyway, this is all about the Second Amendment rights, 27 words, and I try to hand out copies to everyone. If I didn't get you, I have extras, please let me know. And that's the main reason we felt like Tony Mace would be the perfect person to share with us what happened in Santa Fe afterwards and up to the date. And I'm very, very appreciative that he came here, and I want to very much thank all of you guys for being here. Because these are the people that's going to make the changes and get some of this stuff stopped if it's going to get stopped. See, no one's going to do it for us. So thank you all for being here.
Tony, you're going to have to belt it out. Anyways, our sheriff, Tony Mace.
I
think it's working. Working? Can you hear me? Okay.
Is that, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Whitmore, for having me again. It's a pleasure to be here. Ms. Harrell, it's a pleasure to see you again.
I'm glad to hear that you're going to be running again. That's awesome. I hope everybody can hear me. I'll try to project my voice as loud as I can. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. So, this New Mexico right now has started a grassroots movement. We are making national news. What we started here in New Mexico is moving across our nation. People are standing up. The people that, we're really getting into. We're really
Hearing all the way in the back. Just go for it.
Okay. What we realized is across the nation, and especially here in New Mexico, we've kind of awoken a sleeping giant. The people that are sitting, that haven't really engaged in politics, that really haven't engaged with their elected officials, they're now getting involved. They're now stepping up. They're now saying, hey, we're getting back to a republic where we should be, we the people. We're getting back to holding our elected officials accountable. We need to keep the iron hot. We need to keep people engaged in politics. We need to keep people holding their elected officials accountable. It's not just me. I'm the president of the New Mexico Sheriff's Association, but I had all the other sheriffs stand up and support our efforts as well. We couldn't do it without the support of the citizens. And it's not just about the Second Amendment. It's about our Constitution. It's about our constitutional rights as a whole. If you lose one, what's next? It's just going to keep trickling around. What freedoms are we as citizens willing to give up to make society safe? Well, when we look at some of the Second Amendment issues, our government across the nation, not just here in New Mexico, we want to get to the root of the problem. What we want to do is to start attacking the tool, the weapon. We got a people problem in New Mexico. We got a people problem across the United States. Not a gun problem. So when we were in our legislature and we were up there, we knew I'm a Democrat, I run a Democratic ticket. We knew that the Democrats were in control of the House. We knew the Democrats were in control of the Senate. We seen the money that was pumped in. I call it extortion and bribery. They call it lobbyist and campaign finance. Okay? $400,000 to push the gun control issues. House Bill 51, the abortion bill. A lot of people don't know Michael Hendricks. He ran for the Attorney General position. He was behind a lot of the movement to stop the abortion bill. Sheriff's Association, we got on board right away. We've seen the pre-filed bills. We've seen the pre-filed gun legislation. We've seen what was going on. We knew what we were up against. So there were 6 anti-gun bills introduced into legislation. 2 got it out. 1 is being challenged by a referendum that we're going to take to the voters. Even though the Secretary of State gave us lip service on what the Speaker of the House said, that's not her position to interpret the Constitution. She is supposed to approve the petition just on its form only. So we're going to challenge that. But what we need to do is keep people, when we get that petition approved and we get those signatures, when we start collecting signatures, we're going to need volunteers to get those signatures. To get that on the ballot, to get it to the people, to where we can get, so we can vote on that and not have it crammed down our throat and say, here you go. And that's on the universal background check. Now, it's important that we keep motivated and keep this ball rolling. But out of the 6 pieces of legislation, anti-gun legislation, 2 made it out. Universal background check got signed by the governor. Senate Bill 258, which is the domestic violence red flag bill, is still sitting on her desk waiting on signature. We don't know if she'll sign it or not, so the fight's still on. We still need to keep contacting her not to sign this particular piece of legislation. It doesn't just violate the Second Amendment, it violates your 4th Amendment right, violates your 5th Amendment right. There's a lot of legal procedures in this that are unconstitutional, they're unenforceable, and there's no due process in there for anybody. It's a gun grab. It is a gun grab is what it is. So if that actually gets signed by her and gets introduced into law, I do believe it'll be challenged by the Supreme Court, and it'll come up with some crazy case law for law enforcement, and we'll have to wiggle around through it. But, going back to the legislature is the Democrats were in control of the House, they were in control of the Senate, We've seen how much money was pumped into the system. We've seen what was going on in Chicago, Connecticut, New York, Washington, Colorado. We knew it was coming to New Mexico. We knew it was coming. Problem with that is New Mexico has a very strong constitution. New Mexico still has a lot of strong conservative people. It's not about what's behind your voter registration, Republican or Democrat. It's we the people, us, back to a republic. We need to get back to that. We have a strong constitution. And if this group, Every Town for Gun Safety, which is Moms Demand Action, Gabby Gifford's group, it's all funded by Michael Bloomberg and George Soros. It's a push. It's an agenda-driven push. If they could get through our Constitution in New Mexico, it'll sweep the nation. It'll keep continuing moving forward like a virus. And that's why it's important for us to stop it here. And we've really emboldened people. We've woken up that sleeping giant. And, you know, we were in the legislature. We were in the committee meetings. We were trying to... You know, I'm the elected sheriff. I'm in my community every day, just like the rest of our sheriffs. I see everybody in the grocery stores. I see them in the schools. I see them walking on the sidewalks. If you can't see me in the community, you come to my house and find me, or find me at my office driving around. I'm in touch with the community. I know what's important to people. I know what we're passionate about. So when I go to my legislatures and I relay that message to them, that should have some face value right there. That, number one. Number two, when you're going to enact laws that you want me to enforce as a law enforcement officer, they should do two things. They should be protecting our community, they should be making our community safe, and they should be getting to the root of the problem. Not because somebody bought or paid for them or it's agenda-driven. So, when we're in there in these committee hearings and we're talking about this stuff, and it's not just me, it's my fellow sheriffs across the state. We're in these committee meetings falling on deaf ears. Over 200 years of law enforcement experience combined in one room and saying, you guys don't know what you're talking about. We were called, I mean, everything in the book. And then people started seeing what was going on. The momentum started taking place as far as when we talk about the Second Amendment. Well, our governor decided to call us a bunch of rogue sheriffs looking for a pity party. And that kind of really emboldened more people. And it took off. I mean, there's t-shirts, coffee mugs, bumper stickers. I mean, you name it. It's the new magma. But, you know, I mean, our nation as a whole, our constitutional rights are under attack. And we noticed that and we've seen that. We're in these committee hearings. We're trying to educate our legislators on a lot of the problems we see with these bills. And it wasn't, you know, we're looking for stuff that is actually going to protect our citizens, laws that we can enforce and laws that we can use on the streets. But that's not what they want to hear. Every committee meeting was stacked. 4-2, 5-2, 6-2, so it always went on a party line vote. When we have representatives that are telling us, some of them are attorneys that are representatives and senators, and they're telling us, I don't know what a 4473 form is. That's the background check when you purchase a gun. I don't know what an FFL is, Federal Firearms License dealer. When they're telling us that they don't know any of this stuff, but yet they think this is a good piece of legislation. Well, you know nothing about it, but you're going to vote yes on it? So we're trying to educate them, and we're just met with the stone face. This is the way it's going to be. It was hard because the rooms are small, and Every Town for Gun Safety, Mom Demand Action, they're paid hacks, that's what we're calling them. Some of them aren't even from our state. We watch the buses drive up, we watch them get off, we watch them hand them t-shirts, and we watch them walk in and pack the room so nobody else can get in there. It's hard for us as citizens. I mean, we're the working class, we work. We got kids, we got businesses, we got jobs, we got a personal life, we got things that are going on. It's hard for us, citizens, to drive to Santa Fe and be turned away at the door because the rooms are full. Dave's been there with me, Steve's been there with me. I see a lot of you that went up to Santa Fe with me in these committee hearings, and you know what I'm talking about. The rooms are just packed, so we're overwhelmed. So we're trying to think, how do we get our legislators to listen to our voice? How do we get that representation? How do we get them to know? Because what may be good for Albuquerque may not be good for Cibola County, may not be good for Socorro County, may not be good for Clay County. we've seen a divide between rural New Mexico and metropolitan New Mexico. So when you look at Bernalillo County, it is the most heavily populated county in the state. What do? You turn on the news. There's always a shooting. There's always some type of act of violence. You can't even park your car there without worrying about it getting stolen. You know, so Albuquerque has a crime problem. It really, really does. But what goes on there and what makes the news there is kind of drives what goes on in the rest of our state. And that's what people focus on. And that's what was in these committee meetings, these committee hearings. The senators and the representatives from Bernalillo, Santa Fe, and Donna Ana County, which are your metropolitan counties, are in these committee hearings. They're stacked, and those are the ones that are trying to make the decisions for the rest of the state, for the whole state. The voice of the citizens are not getting heard in rural New Mexico. So now you went from a political divide to a metropolitan versus rural New Mexico divide. So as I'm driving home from Santa Fe and my little wheels are spinning, my little peanuts rattling around, and I'm like, how do we get that voice? How do we get that in Santa Fe? Our governor, she wanted to make New Mexico a sanctuary state. What does that do? That is an effort to avoid federal law under the marijuana stuff and under the illegal immigration stuff. The United States of America is under attack right now. Our southern border is open. They've seen a 13 record high of illegal immigrants coming into our state. They can't even keep them at the southern border anymore. They're pumping them up to Albuquerque. That's a problem. Not every single one of them is asylum seekers. There's bad people mixed in that bunch that are coming into the United States to do bad things. And do they stay in New Mexico? No. They go across the whole United States. So it's a problem that's starting here, just like the driver's license. It's moving to the whole United States. But that sanctuary state status, it was to be to shield immigrants from, illegal immigrants from ICE and federal laws, and the same to enact the illegal, the marijuana, the recreational marijuana, would make it a little bit easier. So again, I'm driving back from Santa Fe and I'm thinking, what do we do, what do we do, what do we do? So I called our attorney, Adrian Nash from the county, and I said, hey, what do you think about this idea about having a Second Amendment sanctuary county to protect people's constitutional rights? Adrian says, hey, I like it. Let me draft something up. So Adrian's a gun guy. I've known him for a long time. He's out of Socorro. He represents Socorro County as well. Sends me back this resolution, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, hey, I like it. My next phone call was to Commissioner Windmarsh, who was an amazing advocate for this. I can't thank you enough. He really helped me get this going with the rest of our commissioners. And I ran it by Mr. Windmarsh, and he says, you know, I like it. Let's do it. He's always been an advocate for our constitutional rights. He's always been an advocate for Cibola County. I mean, he's the forefront of a lot of stuff that goes on as a commissioner as well. He's an elected official that does what he said he's going to do. And I commend you for that, Mr. Windmarsh. I mean, I can't thank you enough. So I ran this resolution by him, and he says, I like it. Let's get it in front of the commission. So I take that same resolution and I gave it to all 33 sheriffs, and I said, hey, run this by your commissioners, see what they think, see if you could get it through. Next thing I know, the next day, Socorro County has it, Quay County has it. Every county across the state is picking it up, and it's running through. Record numbers of citizens are showing up to these commission meetings. They're showing up by the hundreds, they're showing up by the thousands. And they're there, they're saying, hey, Commissioner, I elected you. You're a form of government. Listen to me, the citizen. And what you've seen is you've taken the politics out of it. It's no longer a Republican issue or a Democrat issue. Because you have Democratic sheriffs, Republican commissioners, Democratic commissioners, and they're all coming together and listening to what the citizens have to say. So what we've done is, over time, the wheels have turned. So now you have Congress who's saying, we control the House, you know, we're going to tell you, the people, what to do. No, it's us, the citizens, we the people, we're a republic, we tell the government what to do. We elect you into the office to carry our voice and listen to us. So what we've done is we've flipped that table back. We've put the power back in the people. Now, it should be people, our county government, our state government, and our federal government. That's the way it should work. We have started to reverse that role with this sanctuary movement, with this sanctuary status. Citizens are showing up. People that really wouldn't engage in stuff are now getting engaged. They're talking. They're showing up to meetings. It takes all of us together to hold our elected officials accountable and make sure that they know who we are in our voice. Too many candidates, this last election ran unopposed in our county. It was just a slide-in for a lot of us. I was one. I ran unopposed. But across the state, we've seen a lot of people, a lot of different positions that ran unopposed. We need to get good qualified candidates, conservative candidates, into those positions that are going to listen to us as a people. And we need to take our government back. And that's kind of where this has taken us. But again, when we did the sanctuary, Second Amendment sanctuary counties, you know, a lot of people started engaging, a lot of people started moving in and getting involved. And we really got that message. And that's what really got our governor's attention at that point and called us rogue sheriffs looking for a pity party. Well, that's not what we were doing. We're just trying to say, hey, let us have a seat at the table to talk about some of these laws and fix them and look at stuff that's actually going to make New Mexico safe and protect our citizens. So we were able to stop, out of those 6 anti-gun, we were able to stop. Only 2 made it out, and there were 6 pieces of legislation that were in there. And then what you've seen is other things start trickling up. You've seen people getting involved on the abortion, the taxes, the fracking. Everything just kind of started taking hold. People were showing up and getting involved. So it kind of got, like I said, it got people engaged in in their government and emails, phone calls. I mean, they had record numbers of this going into the state capitol, which was great. Because those people need to know. I mean, for far too long, they've been up there in Santa Fe doing whatever they want to. Just making things happen. Yeah, this sounds good. Yeah, I got $10,000 for that. I'm going to vote for it. You know, for far too long, that's been going on. And we need to stop that. So it's important that we continue this. It's not just something that we do during the legislative session. This is something that we need to keep the momentum going. We need to keep it going all the time. Because every day, our constitutional rights are under attack. And, you know, the United States of America, we were created on an act of defiance. And now's that time. We're in an act of defiance again. You know, you got these anti-gunners that are out there, and their agenda is driven by emotion. Right? It's driven by emotion. It's not a factual basis. We bring facts to the table when we talk about this stuff and how it's going to impact things. Facts. We look at gun violence has been on a decrease since 1995, since 1994. A 27% decrease in gun violence across the United States. So it's not a gun problem. It's a people problem. The facts show that. The other side, anti-gunners, they want to say that they want to say that these high numbers are there for gun violence, but what they base those numbers off of is suicide. Suicide is not a crime in New Mexico. It's not a crime anywhere. So, but on the flip side of that, they have a piece of legislation introduced to where you can end your life. What that would do is you go to a doctor and pay $500 to get a pill to end your life. What's the difference between the guy that wants to end his life with a 30-cent bullet? I mean, I'm not trying to be harsh, but that's you know, that's what I'm talking about. So, you know, they got this agenda, but then they also got this agenda on the other side that makes no sense. It contradicts itself. Only 47% of suicides a firearm is used. And here in Cibola County, I don't know what it is, people like to jump and on trains. Women, they like to use pills. Men like to hang themselves too. Why aren't we looking at those issues as well? Why is it just the gun? It's a direct attack on our constitutional right and our Second Amendment right, the gun rights. Because if it's been under attack for years, and it just keeps progressively getting worse. And I think if they get rid of that one, the rest will follow suit. It makes it that much easier to move us to a socialist state, which we do not want to be that. We do not. You look at Chicago, the state with the most gun control across the United States has the highest crime rate. You know, so we know that gun control doesn't work. Look at some of the other states, Oklahoma, where they talk about responsible gun ownership, people should arm themselves, people should go to training. Crime is down. Burglaries are down. Drugs are down. There's a huge decrease in stuff that's going on in that state. So that's something that we need, that we need to look at. Catron County drafted a resolution that says you should own a gun. I'm sorry, not a resolution, an ordinance. So counties and municipalities under state law have the authority to draft, not ordinances, but not resolutions, but ordinances. So an ordinance is essentially like a law, basically, through that county. So they're saying under an ordinance that you should own a gun. Why? Catron County is rural. It's way out there. Most of us know. But what that started from is when they introduced the Mexican gray wolf into our state. Attacking kids. I mean, the kids got to go to the bus stop and sit in a cage so a wolf doesn't attack them. That's horrible. They're giving up their cattle to this wolf that's killing them. So they're saying, arm yourself to protect your personal property, protect your kids, and you know, so, and you see that go down. Burglaries are down over there because everybody knows they're armed, you know. The criminal element doesn't really hang out over there. So, you know, you look at that. You look at states that promote gun ownership. They have a lower crime rate. They have a lower burglary rate. They have a lower recidivism rate. New Mexico is 72% reliant on federal resources. We are economically deprived in the state of New Mexico. Nobody wants to come here. Nobody wants to work here. Nobody wants to start businesses here because we're crime-driven. Look at what goes on in Albuquerque. Like I said, you can't even park your truck over there without worrying about it getting stolen. Part of the problem with that is, which brings me to my next comment, is we talked about laws that are going to protect the state and make citizens safer, is the catch and release program, our bail bond reform. You commit a murder today, you're out next week walking the street to commit another murder. Citizens are continually victimized by the same people over and over and over and over. We see it here every day.
Usually they're out on the street before the paperwork.
Exactly. They're out on the street before the paperwork's done. But every time we deal with somebody, they're a repeat offender. We asked in legislation, we asked to bring that back forth. We voted on it because it was spoon-fed to us and it's not what we thought it was. As citizens, because, again, we took the back seat and listened to our government to say, oh, this is a good thing. Well, now we're paying for it. It takes a constitutional amendment to change that particular piece of law. They wouldn't even pass a piece of legislation to get it out on the ballot so we, the citizens, can vote on that. It was, no, we're not doing it. It ran out. We asked for a piece of legislation to break the gun loop. So what that is if you're convicted in New Mexico, if you're convicted of a felony crime, you cannot own, possess a firearm, right? After 10 years, if you're caught with a firearm and you're a felon on a state level, I can't charge you with that crime. It has to be the federal government. The federal government's understaffed, under-budgeted, undermanned. They don't come here. They don't care what we're doing. Sorry. But, you know, so what we said is, hey, legislatures, let's break that loophole down. Let's put that authority back in the level of a sheriff on a state level. We'll see an impact on crime. We'll see people being held accountable. Never even made it out of the first committee. Never even made it out of the first committee. That's something that we could have used. Right now, one that's really troubling to me is the Domestic Violence Red Flag Bill 258, waiting on the governor's signature. If you're a victim of domestic violence, you're continually stalked, you're continually harassed by your domestic partner, whether it be a man or a woman. What keeps that individual from attacking you? They know you're armed. You go out, you do a concealed carry, you get a license, you go to training, you arm yourself to protect yourself, right? Now, under this particular piece of legislation, that's keeping your attacker away from you, that's keeping you safe, keeping him away from you or her away from you. Under this particular piece of legislation, I can now, your partner, can go into the court and say, you're a threat to yourself or a threat to society, and I'm supposed to go disarm you and take away your guns. That individual's now made you a soft target. He's taken away your guns, he's taken away your right to defend yourself. You could easily become a victim. How many times do we see our system abused already? A lot. And it's important to us as sheriffs because we're in office of the courts. We serve those orders. They're expected us to carry those out. How am I going to go to disarm somebody that could potentially become a victim, and later on, I'm going to have to go clean up that mess or tell their loved one, sorry, they're deceased because, sorry they died because the courts disarmed them. It's not what I'm going to do. We as sheriffs across New Mexico, we got attacked by our governor, we got attacked by our attorney general, we got attacked by our senators, and we got attacked by our representatives when we said we're not going to enforce those laws. What we're saying, a lot of people said, ooh, what does that mean, Sheriff? You're not going to enforce those laws. The AG came back and does a blanket statement that says you need to enforce state law, or you will enforce state law and federal law. It's a blanket statement. Number one, I'm not a federal officer. I don't enforce federal law. The sheriff is the only law enforcement officer. We have more authority in our counties than the president himself. I can deputize citizens. I can cross-commission federal officers to do whatever they want. That's Forest Service, BLM, municipalities. I, as the sheriff, have that authority to do that. So, New Mexico is still a discretionary state as well. That means I have the discretion to choose and enforce whichever laws that I want. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm a constitutional scholar, but I can read black and white and say what's right and what's wrong. I can read that and know what it tells me what I can and cannot do. I know what the laws in the state of New Mexico tell me I can and cannot do. And that is the sheriff. As a sheriff, I'm here to serve the people. It doesn't matter what, if there's a D behind your name or an R behind your name or whatever. I'm a sheriff. The law book tells me, the Constitution tells me what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. And so when they fired off and said, you guys will be enforcing these laws, number one, I don't enforce federal laws, and number two, it's a discretionary state. I, as a sheriff, can choose which laws I want to enforce and which ones I don't. I'm responsible for taxpayers' dollars, and I do not want to be wasting those dollars on a lawsuit and tied up in court on a piece of legislation they already know is going to create problems because I'm not the new guy. I've been in this game for a while. I see what defense attorneys are doing. I see why they challenge stuff in court. We see the problems with it. Not just the constitutionality side, but the legal side of it. So when we go in there, when we talk about the discretionary and I'm not going to enforce those laws, it's no different than if I arrest you on a drug charge. If I arrest you, do I charge you with possession, or I charge you with trafficking, or I charge you with both? That's my discretion as a law enforcement officer in the state of New Mexico. I can charge you with one, or I can charge you with both. Either way, I still get to the same point that I want to be. So currently when we talk about some of the red flag bills and why we don't want to enforce those and we're not going to enforce those, thank God none of them made it out, but that particular one did not make it out of legislation. But under the statute, we have the Emergency Mental Health Code, which tells me, as a law enforcement officer, if I deem you a threat to yourself or society, that I can take you into custody and transport you to the nearest mental health facility. That's a problem in New Mexico because we only have 4 across the whole state. They're overwhelmed, they're overbooked, they're overstaffed, there's not enough room. So what do? They take the worst and deal with them, and then they take the lighter guys and shove them out. And then they go back into the communities and they create problems, and then we have to deal with them. But under that particular piece of legislation that the legislatures wanted to approve, all it said is go take their guns and their ammo. That's it. It didn't say anything about helping them get to the root of the problem or anything. So it's just a gun grab. Go take their guns. Why? They want to disarm everybody. And what do they look at? They look at they base it off of the active shooter situations that go on across the United States. Every single one of those weapons was owned legally and purchased legally. Background checks, emergency red flag laws, none of that did anything to stop that. It's the mental state of that individual. You can't legislate evil out of people's hearts and minds. They're going to commit those crimes either way. But what stops a bad person from committing a crime or an act of gun violence? A good guy with a gun. Facts. We look at that. We see how many are out there. Did you know under the FBI uniform, FBI tracking system, they don't track how many times a gun is used that stops a crime. They don't keep those statistics. But what do keep? suicide rate, violent crime, stolen, all kinds of stuff like that. They don't keep the good stuff, they keep the bad stuff. So what happens is the anti-gunners go look at that, and they drive their gun violence numbers up with the suicide rate. I forgot to say that. So when you do the FBI's uniform crime reporting and you look at it, the system itself doesn't have a way to differentiate between suicide or gun violence. It's all compiled into one. So the anti-gunners, Moms Demand Action, Gifford Group, they use those numbers because they're emotionally driven to say, hey, these are the numbers. Well, those aren't the numbers. You go back and you look at the crime decrease, 27% since 1995 decrease in crime and gun violence across the United States. So, fact-driven, we look at the facts, we look at what's going on, and those are the stuff that we were doing. But, again, when we talk about, it's not just a Second Amendment issue, it's a constitutional issue. We need to protect our Constitution. It's getting stepped on daily, not just on a state level, but on a national level. Look how much money, our tax dollars were wasted on a stupid investigation for 2 years against our president. Give me a break. You get some idiot, Cibola, that goes out and role plays and acts out a crime against himself. Why? To initiate hate and drive against our president. And what happens? They go behind a closed door and hammer out a deal with the, they hammer out a deal with the, what's that? Yeah, with the prosecutors, a closed door deal, so we don't know what's going on. It was done in less than 2 months, but yet we want to investigate our president for 2 years to slow him down, to do what, so he, I mean, there's a man that said, elect me, this is what I'm going to do. And he stood by it, and he's doing it, but yet the politicians try to block him. He's the only thing standing between government and us, and they hate him for it. And the first 2 years of his election has been trying to fight this agenda to impeach him and make him look like a bad person, but every time we turn around, he prevails. And that's something that we need to look at in the state of New Mexico. And we, the people, go back to a republic, stand up, protect our Constitution, stand our ground, let our legislators and our elected officials know that we have a voice in what they do in Santa Fe. Now, Senator Sanchez, Senator Munoz, and Representative Garcia, when we talked about the gun bills, every single one of them listened to what I had to say. I had lobbyists calling me, saying, hey, Sheriff, Senator Sanchez won't even let me in his office without talking to you. You know, that's important. That is. Senator Munoz called me in the middle of the night. Tony, watch out for this. You know, not sheriff, anything. First name basis. Look out for this, man, it's coming. We had inside people telling us what was going on. So it's not just me as the sheriff. I had 29 other sheriffs standing with me, 28 other counties that passed these resolutions as citizens. We had people in our legislature that were actually looking out for us and helping us and keeping us on the inside. So when you see Senator Sanchez and you see Senator Munoz and you see Representative Garcia, when I'm talking about the gun stuff, they were on our side. They voted no on every single one of these. They listened to what I had to say. And that's important because those are the people that actually did listen to our voice. Some that didn't, Senator Richard Martinez from over by Espanola threatened us on the Senate floor, the sheriff of his community, and says, basically, during these debate, another senator out of Bernalillo says, do you realize that your own sheriff signed this letter opposing these pieces of legislation? And he's full of shit because he had a letter hand delivered to him by me and I was standing out of his office and he says, no, I didn't know my sheriff was against it. Well, you're full of it. You got a hand-delivered letter by Sheriff Mace, right? Well, then what does he say? I guess my sheriff doesn't want his capital outlay money. Yeah. Right? On the Senate floor. That's a direct ethics violation. We go in, say, hey.
He smiled and laughed as he said it.
Yeah, smiled and laughed as he said it. Every single one of them kind of, whoa. And everybody's darting. They don't know which way to go. We go to file a complaint. Go to the fourth floor. Go to the fourth floor. Oh, go back down to the Senate. They have to police their own. There's no communicate. The left hand isn't tied to the right hand over there. But what's important about that is our rural New Mexico, our counties rely on that capital outlay money. Last year, our representatives and our senators gave us a lot of money to purchase units, and that's what happens across the whole state. So now, the sheriff from over by Espanola, Richard Martinez, says, I guess he doesn't want his capital outlay money. So there goes all his projects out the door because he's relying on that funding. But what did happen, Senator Brandt from Bernalillo County walks over and says, Sheriff Mays, tell Sheriff Lujan I'll give him some of my money. That's awesome. That's commendable. Sheriff Mays from Cibola County made enemies with the rest of the Democrats, so Cibola County won't get nothing. We didn't get any capital outlay money for the Sheriff's Office. Our projects were kicked to the curb. Road Department will get some money, other places will get some money. The smallest police department in our whole state, the village of Milan, got almost $200,000. Yeah, so we're going to bite the bullet because I stood my ground and I did the right thing. I think I did the right thing. We'll figure it out within our county on what we're going to do and what's going to be next. But those are some of the tactics and those are some of the problems that we had during our legislative session. But again, just because the session ended doesn't mean that we need to take a back seat. We need to keep engaged. We need to keep holding them accountable. And I mean no offense by this at all. But look around. There are no children in here. There are no teenagers. There's no college students. One or two. We got a couple. Here we go. We got a couple. We need to get our children, our grandchildren, our college students, get them off the couch, get them away from the cell phones, get them away from the video games, and get them back engaged into everyday life. They need to stand up. They need to be educated on what's going on. I was watching a video earlier today. Half of our college students think the Electoral College is a place. I mean, come on. Seeing is believing, right? I look at some of this stuff and I see what's going on. I mean, we really need to educate our youth. We need to get them back engaged, educate them the right stuff. When I was talking about some of the anti-gun stuff, when I would talk to people, I would talk to youth, and I would talk to your average everyday citizens. They had no clue what was going on. I had to educate them on what was going on. I had to tell them, you need to pay attention to this. They don't know. They're not engaged. They're just sitting back and taking what's fed to them. And we really need to stop that. That it's important to keep that momentum going. There may be 60 of us in here tonight. That 60 could turn into 120 real easy. Out, go talk to your neighbor. Go talk to your family member. I mean, politics. Try to keep the politics out of it. It's back to a republic. We the people, we need to look at protecting us and protecting our constitutional rights because they're constantly under attack by our government. Not just on a state level, but on a national level as well. And that's the importance of it. And we've started it. We've got the momentum going. We've got people's attention. We need to keep it going. It doesn't just stop because the legislative session is done. We still have Congress, which I got some good news yesterday that Udall's not going to be running again. I'm happy to hear that. That's going to bring flesh, blood into our Congress. I'm sorry?
Are you going for a seat?
No, sir.
Yes, sir. Oh, you bet.
So, I'm happy. That's going to bring fresh blood into Congress. That's going to bring new blood into Congress. I was hoping Ms. Yvette would get into Congress. We're going to get it there. We're going to get it there. But we need to keep that momentum going. So when we send, because the same stuff that's going on here in New Mexico, the attack on our constitutional right, is going on in Congress on a national level as well. So when we send letters to Congress, we get a generic letter back with a rubber stamp on it, with some fluff comment. That's not what it should be. They should be listening to us. And we really need to take back our government. We really need to engage with this stuff and let them know what's important to us. And I'm not going to say that, that we don't have a problem when we talk about violence and gun violence and different things like that. We do, but how do we react to it and how do we get to the point where we want to make people safe? You bring educated professionals to the table and you talk about it and you find a happy medium. We go to committee meetings. There's a 16-year-old girl that goes to two 16-year-old girls that go to a private school that are testifying in a committee as an expert witness against gun control. You're not an attorney, you're not a law enforcement officer, you go to a private school. What do you know about gun violence? What do you know about the law? What do you know about law enforcement? Absolutely nothing. But these committee members are listening to that. That's a huge problem. I got asked to leave the floor of the House during a debate because there's a lady testifying. All the House representatives are listening. The whole floor is listening to this lady who believes she's in the state of Nevada. She thinks she's in Nevada. Literally, I'm not kidding. And she's got their attention. You have 28 sheriffs standing on the floor, and you have the speaker, or you have the committee chair, Gail Casey, say, I only want to hear from one of you, not all 28 of you. Wait a minute, you're going to hear from every single one of us. It's our constitutional right to be here. You're going to listen to us. Okay, you guys get 1 minute. How do you cover so much stuff in 1 minute? You can't. So they censor us because they don't want to hear what we have to say. But you go to the other side, you get 3 minutes to testify. And this lady thinks she's in Nevada. Nevada this, Nevada that, we in Nevada. I couldn't sit there and take it anymore. I had to look at her and say, lady, you're in New Mexico. Gail Casey, there'll be no more outbursts, Sheriff. Okay, I'm sorry. Right? So then she says, the lady that thinks she's in Nevada, and they're listening to it. This is what they're hearing. They're not hearing facts from law enforcement. They're not hearing facts from attorneys. They're not hearing facts from our district attorneys. They're listening to the emotion-driven people that are from our state. They're actually taking into consideration what they're saying. And she says that there's more gun violence in the state of New Mexico than the whole nation combined. That's what the senators heard. That's what their representatives heard, is what she said. Me being outspoken, I may not be the most well-spoken, but damn it, I'm going to be outspoken. So I look at her again and I say, where do you get your facts from? Those ain't correct. Representative Casey? Sheriff Mace, that's enough. Security, can you please take him out in the hallway?
Please.
You know, so those are the things that we're fighting. Day one, oh yeah, rogue. I'm not rogue, I'm passionate. But day one, opening day of our legislation session, we seen what was going to happen. We tested it. It wasn't about us, the sheriffs, it was about the people that we represent. We know what we're allowed to do, and we know what we're not allowed to do. The state capitol is the people's house. It's a public place. It belongs to each and every one of us. It's an open carry state. I can carry a weapon anywhere I want to, not a federal building, post offices, churches, and bars. Okay? I can carry my gun in the state capitol all day long, open carry. If I have a concealed carry, I can carry it in there. But we've seen from day one, when we walk up to the door, there's a sign that says no guns, Capitol security. No guns, guys. Most of the sheriffs, we dress, not all of us wear uniforms all the time. You know, we wear civilian clothes, but we carry our weapons and our badges and stuff. We were met with resistance at the state capitol. What they did, one representative, Representative Reed, came to us and apologized. One, out of all of them, came and apologized. He said, sheriffs, we're sorry that happened. That wasn't what our intention was. Okay, perfect example. Unintended consequences of you not knowing what's going on. If I give an order to my guys, they know exactly what I want, they know exactly what to do, and they know exactly the outcome. So what happens is we're met with resistance at the state capitol. You can't carry your guns in there. Every year we go to the state capitol during a legislative session, we listen to the State address, and we engage. The Association of the Counties puts it on. We engage with our representatives and we talk about some legislation that's coming up. Pretty much a meet and greet, handshake the first day. We're always met with open arms. This year, we're met with resistance, no guns, keep out. Well, it wasn't intended for you, sheriffs. It was intended for the citizens and the people. Whoa, wait a minute, that alarms me even more. So rather than getting in a pissing contest at the state capitol and making a scene, we went back over to the convention center where we were having our meeting and we discussed it and we figured out what we were going to do. Right away the media starts calling us. Well, we took the high ground and we just did a quick press release and said, yeah, we were mad, we were told that we couldn't carry, blah, 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 blah. Out of that 2-minute bleed, all those signs came down the next day. You could walk up to the state capitol almost any day and there was not a sign on the door anymore. Now, for sensitive on the floor, which they can enact that rule, that says you can't carry during a floor deal, which I'll be honest with you, there's some of those meetings that I've been into that I've kind of, you know, you got a 60-pound lady carrying an 80-pound 223 high-powered rifle sitting behind you, and you're passionate about the cause. I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. So I get where they're coming from. I see that point of it. But again, we're talking about a heated debate at committee hearing. Okay, I can relate to that. But when we talk about the general house itself, and they restrict that, it's not just about us as law enforcement, it's about the citizens, the people. And that's the stance that we took. It wasn't about the sheriffs, it's about the citizens, it's about the people. Their rights were violated, their constitutional rights were violated on that day. It didn't happen again the rest of the session. It did not happen again. There was a mayor from Estancia that came up that day just to see what was going on. But that day, he has been at every single event across the state to make sure it doesn't happen again. He was last night with us in Albuquerque. Good God. But again, our constitutional rights were right there that day. Were violated as citizens. And that's a lot of these. So out of these pieces of legislation, the universal background check, guess who's exempt from it? No, me, the sheriff, law enforcement. They created a second-class citizen to say law enforcement can swap and trade and sell guns and do whatever they want amongst each other. Well, why? Well, because we know you guys are law-abiding citizens. Ronnie's a law-abiding citizen. What makes him any different than me? Dave's a law-abiding citizen.
Concealed carry holders are 6 times less likely to break the law than you guys.
Exactly. Exactly. And that was one of the arguments that we made. So now they've created a second-class citizen. So when we talk about that stuff and we bring those facts to life, they don't want to hear that. I am a citizen as well as a law enforcement officer. I am no better than anybody else in this room. I just do a different job. That's all there is. So for me to have free gratis and Ronnie not to, where's the constitutionality in that?
Deputize all of us.
Exactly. You know, and that was some of the other things too, is we had a lot of people, a lot of guys come out of the woodworks, a lot of the, I'd say constitutionalists that are really, really constitutionalists that are like, Sheriff, you need to go arrest the governor for treason and take her to Gitmo and hold her accountable and execute her. Whoa! You know, we're not 1776 anymore, okay? We don't do that. They want a lot of this posse comitatus where I go deputize all the whole state. We go do all of this. Can we do it? Yeah, under the Constitution. Yes, we can.
Acknowledge it's kind of a cool idea.
But, you know, we're not at that point anymore. We want to do things the right way. You know, we want to do stuff the right way. Are we in a battle? Yes, we are in a battle. We're not in a battle with muskets on a battlefield like we were back in the day, but we're in a battle right now to protect our constitutional rights. And we as the citizens need to keep the momentum going. We need to keep that drive going. We need to engage more people. We need to hold our elected officials accountable. And that's where all this boils down to and where it starts from. And, I mean, I think I've yapped enough. So,
Are there any questions from the audience? Mr. Jackson.
As a fellow Democrat, I want to thank you for being here. I want to also say there's a crack in the Democratic Party. Everybody's not nuts.
Yes.
But my question for you is, and I've been delegate for the State Democratic Convention and been active in the party, although I'm not very welcome there anymore.
Me neither.
My question for you is, when are you up for re-election?
Well, I was asked that by a reporter from Washington, D.C. now, today, because we've made national news, Fox News, CNN, Washington Post, everything that's important in New Mexico is front page. But I got asked that. that. New Mexico is the only state in the nation that has term limits on their sheriff.
Really?
And every time we try to bring that up in legislation, we mess it up, or the legislators mess it up, or it doesn't make it out for some reason. And it's going to be even harder right now because the legislature realizes the power of the sheriff. They've seen what happened on this session. The Democrats were in control of both the Senate and the House. And there are some conservative Democrats in there. There really are. We really do. But when I talk about they're in control of the House, they had the majority and they had the power to do whatever they want. But we, the sheriffs, and us, the citizens, stood up against them, and we stopped a lot of it. A lot of it. We really, really, really did. In the past, our association has been disorganized. Ms. Harrell can speak to that. But this year, we really, really, really got our stuff together, and we really made an impression on them. They realized the power of the sheriff. And I do not think that that constitutional amendment is going to be brought forth. I really don't. And not only that, now's not the time to start chipping away at the Constitution either. Because you get one, everything else is going to follow suit. So it's a very touchy subject. It really is. But what we got to do is look for individuals. That's what I said. When we look at individuals that are going to run for political offices or be elected by us, we need to look at that individual. We need to vet them. Look at them. Look at what they talk about. Look at what they do. Don't listen to the lip service that they give you at a forum. Go look at what they do in the community. Look how engaged they are with the community. Look at their track record. Ask them questions. And make sure we're electing the right people into these offices. But I cannot run for sheriff again. I would love to. I love being the sheriff.
When does it come up?
I've got 3 years left. So, 3 years left. So,
You don't have to run if the people of the county goddamn nominate you. You can't go against that.
well, the commission, so if there's not a liable candidate under the Constitution, if there's not a liable candidate for the sheriff, the commission can appoint who they want as the sheriff. The commission can. That's under the Constitution, state Constitution. So if something happens to me today, tomorrow, when they want to replace me, the commission appoints who they want to be the sheriff.
Now, which commission is this?
The Cibola County Commission.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I have, right now, we have the full support of our county commission. You know, Mr. Windhorst is a very strong voice on that board, on the Board of County Commissioners. He truly is out for the citizens of the county. He really is. But again, back to your question is I can't run for sheriff anymore. I wish I could. I love this. I love what I do. I really do.
Just change your name.
All right.
Well, I mean, everybody's very focused on the Second Amendment, but something that concerns me at least as much are the attacks on the Electoral College.
That is another thing.
And that's something that we all need to concentrate on as well, because we will end up being run by LA, San Francisco, and New York. And I spent some time recently in LA and was stunned, shocked, and surprised to meet people who are liberal but absolutely hate what's going on in California. And one very nice Jewish fellow that lost his family in the Holocaust and ended up having dinner with me and his wife. And he is appalled at what's going on and said, you know, I came this close to voting for Trump, and I think he stands a chance of being the best president we've ever had, and I'm going to vote for him next time. And this is a Jewish liberal in LA. And so there's hope in Beverly Hills.
Well, you know, it's funny you brought that up, because when I just got elected the vice chairman of the Western State Sheriff's Association. That's all 16 Western states into Mississippi. I was supposed to be the chairman, the president, but I said, wait a minute. I switched with the sheriff out of Texas, and I said, I'll give you my nomination for president, and I'll take the nomination for vice president, because I wanted to focus what was going on here in New Mexico. But we had Fabio Lozano. You guys know who that is? I Can't Believe It's Not Butter guy. The romance novel guy. So I'm in Reno, and I'm walking by, and I'm like, who's this Fabio looking dude, you know? Turns out it's actually him. He's our guest speaker. He talks about the very thing that you brought up about, and he's from Hollywood. And he comes in and he talks about immigration, holding our government accountable, we the people, go back to a republic. This is somebody that immigrated into our country. He talks about his immigration status, on how he became a U.S. citizen and how important it is, and how bad a socialist state or a socialist nation is. He's really, really good at what he talks about. And I was surprised, being a Hollywood movie star, coming from California, talking about that stuff. And when you talk about the Electoral College, and again, it's not just about the Second Amendment, it's about every one of our constitutional rights. It's about the Electoral College, it's about the abortion stuff, it's about the legalization of marijuana, there's a whole, it encompasses everything. And that's where we got to look at protecting our state and protecting our nation. If we take away our Electoral College vote, we're not going to have a say-so in who our president is. That's horrible. What does that do? Why even vote? Why even vote? Why? Government wants to suppress us. They want to take away our First Amendment, our freedom of speech. They want to censor us. So nobody really talks about the Third Amendment anymore. That's just as important as the First and the Second. Why was the Third created? To keep the British from coming in people's houses and stealing their wives and taking their personal property and doing whatever they want. It's just as important as the First, the Second, the Fourth, the Fifth, any of them. That Constitution was written by our forefathers, and it is the same truth today that it was back then. And that's what we need to stick to. You go in my office right now, from day one, when I became a deputy, I swore an oath in the military to defend the Constitution and support it and protect the United States of America. I took that very, very seriously. When I took my first oath as a deputy, I took it very, very seriously. I have in my office, and you don't see it in most political people's offices. What's in my office when you walk in the door? The very Bible that I swore my oath on. I brought my own Bible. It's on my desk. It's there. Our country was built on the Bible and the Constitution. On my wall, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, every single amendment. I stole it from Ted Nugent. But it's framed and it's on my wall. I really legitimately did. But that's what's in my office. Why isn't it in every government building? Why does our state, why does our elected officials want to take away the very things that our nation was built on? Control. Control. I'm sorry, I get off on a tangent. I'm passionate about it. Yes, Ms. Wesley.
Several weeks ago, I got a call about a little after 5 o'clock in the morning.
Use the microphone, please.
I've got a voice, so I'll speak up. I got this call a little after 5 o'clock in the morning, and my son said, "You have your TV on. Tony's on." And you know my son.
Yes.
And so he referred to him as Tony because he's been here several times moderating various events that we have here. But he brought up a word several times today. The word is socialism. The word is socialism. And it impacts everything from our local government all the way up to our state government, to our federal government. We had Katrina. The levees burst. New Orleans was flooded. The levees burst in our Midwestern states. They flooded. We have forest fires. All of these things are controlled by the government. Everything is controlled by the government. Because socialism says that the government has the authority to regulate your life, my life, because we do not have the ability to govern ourselves. And that has been going on for
decades,
50 years. Growing up, I can recall that the big thing to do was to vacation in Cuba. Would you go vacation in Cuba today? But it was a wonderful place to go. But socialism has taken over that country. Socialism has taken over most of our South American our democracies falter. Thank you so much, but we have to be aware that these things are happening subtly in our state, in our nation, and we need to be aware just how serious socialism is. This is our gun control, the things that you spoke about. We need to be passionate about our educational programs, our health programs, all of these other programs that the federal government controls. Thank you very much.
That's absolutely correct. Look at New Zealand. Recently, they had an active shooter situation in New Zealand. That's the first act of violence in 22 years. What's their knee-jerk reaction? They don't have a constitution. We're going to take all the guns away, turn them in. Everybody's going to be defenseless over there. And now, if somebody wants to commit a crime or infiltrate that country, guess what they're going to do? They're a soft target. Yes?
And to add to that, not only are they taking the firearms away, but the Prime Minister said that the manifesto that was published by the shooter is now prohibited. There is a state censor, and if you are caught with a copy of his manifesto, it is 10 years in prison, and if you try to give it to somebody else, it's 12 or 15 years.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
There's a question, Damon had a question. Oh, we done went up real quick. National popular vote, okay? Guys, if you do the math, just do the basic math. If we switch, if that, they're already 2/3 of the way there nationally. Only need another third. We hit that threshold. It's gonna trigger. Okay, if we were to do that in this state, we would lose 1/3 of our power as New Mexicans to say who becomes POTUS. It's simple math. I don't know why the people well, I do know why, because their pockets are being lined. This is also a Soros effort. It's a national effort. Things that these guys can't get done nationally, they're now going out into the states and infecting the states. This is what's happening. This is a new thing. So just to be aware, that's all I have. Thank you.
What's the number you need as far as the population, the percentage that you need on this petition that you're going to put out?
So Article 4, Section 1 of the Constitution says that we have to have 10% of the voting, people that voted in the last election, 10% of that vote to get the petition started. We haven't. Second thing is, once we get the petition from the Secretary of State approved, we have to have it's roughly about 72,000 signatures, verified signatures. So what you traditionally want to do is get about 100,000 signatures, which is easy. We could do that. Our governor, in 6 weeks, gets 60,000, or 6 weeks into her campaign, 70,000 signatures from an online petition to impeach her from office within 3 weeks of her starting. Come on. And that's another thing why, I mean, I'm the bad guy because I stood up against her. I went against the party. I went against her. I didn't support her. So as the Democratic Party looks at me as an outsider, I supported Ms. Harrell in her bid for Congress. I'm against them because I'm against the system, so I'm the bad guy. But those are problems that I foreseen doing my research and looking at who was running for office, and I wasn't shy about speaking up about it, but I was the bad guy. But back to your question, is it about 100,000? And if we will get our petition, it's getting challenged right now. We should get our petition.
So it hasn't been released yet?
It has not been released. When we get it, there's a page that we've created. If you use social media, it's called the Cibola County Patriots page. Because we're all patriots, right? Yeah. So it's called the Cibola County Patriots page. We're keeping people informed. That page is secure. It's monitored on who's in there to make sure that we're not being infiltrated by the other side. The people that want to see this socialist, that want to push this socialist agenda. So if you do the social media, get on the Facebook, watch the Cibola County Patriots. When we get that petition out, we will need people to go out and get these signatures, and they have to be verified. you're going to have to put your name that you verified that that individual signed their signature on that petition. We need roughly about 100,000 signatures just to be on the safe side. We have a company that is going to verify every signature for us, not the Secretary of State, for us, before we submit it. We only have 90 days to get this done. 90 days. So we got to move fast, and it's going to take every single one of us to do it. When that petition comes out, I will be first to have one. I'll make sure that I get everybody an opportunity to sign it. Dave has spoken up and said he would have one down at the gun store. There's a lot of people in our community that are stepping up that normally wouldn't, that are going to help us out with this stuff. So we're going to have that petition up.
This is where they sign up to be a signature taker.
Oh, yeah.
Cibola County Patriots at hashtag Go Rogue New Mexico.